Good morning and welcome to day 94 of Geriatric 1944's Coronavirus Diaries. Time seems to be slowing down, and it's therefore nostalgia time. Looking back, I'm absolutely hooked to the reruns of Downton Abbey on ITV3 every weekday evening. It is so good. I have to tell you, Julian Fellows, you are a terrific writer. And all the actors, Maggie Smith is utterly brilliant in it, but she's got some great lines to say. Anyway, I'm loving it. And the other night, on comes the mention for somebody I knew when I was very young, one of my mum's best friends. My mum used to be an actress in her early 20s before she got married and gave it up in order to become a mum and had me. And one of her friends was a lady called Zena Dare. Zena Dare was quite a star at the time. She was... was one of a pair of sisters who'd done lots of gigs, and then her career went into a slight decline. I think she got married, and then she came back into acting again. And but when I knew her, or I didn't actually know her that well, I only met her once or twice, but my mum had been friends with her for years and years, and she went into My Fair Lady playing Professor Higgins's mum, Mrs. Higgins, on stage in the West End, which was a huge hit, of course, My Fair Lady. And Zena Dare was pretty well known, so I was rather overjoyed to hear her name on Downton Abbey. Also, I got a call from Cherry Red Records. Cherry Red are placing a lot of my old tracks on various assorted compilations. They put out a lot of compilation CDs, vinyl albums, various bits and pieces, and they're always looking for slightly obscure, not actually the obvious tracks to include on all their various compilations. And they get a lot of calls from other people doing compilations saying, can you get us this track? Can you license us this to put on this collection for a few months and so on? And they're very good, Cherry Red, I have to say. And I got a call from them. They had a couple of requests for one of my tracks, which they'd heard was originally my song, and indeed it was. Way back, my hair always used to be cut. These days my hair isn't cut at all, but my hair used to be cut by Keith at Smile. In fact, originally it was by Paul at Smile, and Paul left and Keith took over, and we're talking the 60s now, I think. And Smile closed down recently, but right up till then, Keith always used to cut my hair. One of the things Keith Wainwright used to do was go off to the Caribbean every year because he loved carnival, and he was a big fan of steel drums and all that. But he went on the floats all the time, and he loved all the music on the floats, and he used to record it with his portable cassette recorder and bring them back and give them or play them to friends, which I was one. And he gave me a collection one year, and he said, there's one track on here, there's one song on here, which I think could be a smash. And I listened to it, and I thought, my God, that's absolutely huge. It was a song called Who Let the Dogs Out? So I tried to get hold of the rights so I could put it out on UK records, and back came the answer, no, it had never been recorded. Keith had recorded it on the float as it was being played live by the steel drums and everyone, but hadn't been recorded. So I asked the guy who wrote it, could he please go into the studio and make a proper record of it, which he did. It was terrible. It was flat, and it just didn't have the bubble to it that the one on the float had. So I answered him and said, look, I'm afraid that doesn't really cut it. Would you mind if I had a go? So I recorded it as Fat Jack and His Pack of Pets. And we put it out, and it didn't do a thing. I have to say, the only people that played it were hospital radio stations. And they said they were getting an incredible reaction to it. All their patients lying in bed terribly ill. When they played it, they contacted the station and each hospital and said, could you play that again? It made us feel so happy. But other than that, no sales, nothing else. Nobody picked up on it, no radio play. So it sort of sank without trace. But I also used to go down to my mum's every week, and my brother was there with his two children, who were my nephews, obviously, and the youngest one of whom, William, was about 6 or 7 at the time. every time he was there, he used to say to me, oh, Uncle Kay, take me out to the car and play me that track. And I used to take him out to my car, usually a little baby car. They loved the baby car, my little Suzuki Cappuccino, because they could sit on my lap and pretend to drive it. It was so tiny, it was like a Dodgems car. Anyway, I used to play him my version of Who Let the Dogs Out? I also played it to loads of other people trying to get it released, including a friend of mine, Steve Greenberg, in New York, who had had great success with Hanson and various others in the early days. And I kept saying to him, Steve, this is a smash. I remember I took him for dinner 8 times, and every time after dinner, took him back to my apartment in New York, played him the track. And every time he said, Jonathan, I'm terribly sorry, it's really bad. It'll never be a hit. After the 8th time, he said, you know what? I think it could be a hit, but only if it's done very differently. Do you mind if I cover it? I said, no, not at all. I'd be delighted just to be proved right. And he covered it with a group that he had called the Baha Men, who since then have never been heard. I have to say, very sweetly, having done it, he said, I think this is now going to be a smash, and sent me the most enormous thank you cheque, which he didn't have to do. I didn't own the rights to the song or anything. But I thought that was very kind of him and very decent, and the way a friend and a moral person should behave. He had no obligation and no legal reason to do it at all, but out of the generosity of his heart and the fact that he's a good, honest, decent man, he sent me this massive cheque. And indeed, in due course, the song came out and was a huge hit. There's a brilliant documentary made about Who Let the Dogs Out, and I constantly get calls about that because I'm in it. And apparently when it was screened in Austin, Texas at the big convention there, it virtually stopped the show. They had to stop the film while the laughter went on one of my remarks. If you get a chance to see it, do see it. But here for you is my original version of Who Let the Dogs Out by Fat Jack and his Pack of Pets. See you tomorrow.
Who let the dogs out? Welcome to the home rotten teeth and color crippling red pants away. You was a fat spot. You was old, you was ugly, you was sweat like a pig. Take up your things and run. You're a whole intelligent, ugly, so that fried
It was breaking, but it was bumping. Yippee-yi-yo. And everybody having a ball. Yeah, man. Yippee-yi-yo. Until the man lives out to them calling. Oh, yeah. Yippee-yi-yo. And every girl respond to their call. I hear a woman shout out. Who let the dogs out? 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 There's every minute and a boy called a million $1 can tell. Get back, Fluffy. Nice puppy. Get back, you flea infested mongrel. Because I didn't get in a hand. Yeah, man. Because everybody's out singing it. Oh, from a DJ to the barman, all the party's singing. Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? There's every minute and a boy called a million $1 can tell. Get back, Fluffy. Nice puppy. Get back, you